My life turned upside down when I found my wife in bed with another man. I threw him out, humiliated and ashamed. But that was just the beginning. I targeted his wife, Carly, planning to tear his world apart. As my plan unfolded, I uncovered a labyrinth of lies, hidden affairs, and a sinister conspiracy. This is the explosive tale of my journey from heartbreak to a quest for justice, where every twist and turn reveals another shocking truth. I'm sitting here talking to myself about my problem. I got divorced because my wife cheated on me. It's been a year since the divorce. I don't have kids or family nearby. I'm telling you this because I want another man's wife. I'm not sure if it's love, need, lust, or just a desire to have her. I know that revenge is part of it. I don't know her well. I see her often when I go for lunch. She works in the same building as me. I try to find out as much about her as I can. I'm going to get her. But then what? It's a terrible feeling wanting someone so badly that I'd do anything to have her. I found out that she's around 30 years old. She's small, with breasts that show under her blouse without a bra. She wears mini skirts or tight pants. There are never any creases in her pants, so she either wears a thong or goes without underwear. As far as I know, she's married to a loser. She has no kids and is a bit of a flirt. Her husband doesn't appreciate her. He ruined my marriage by sleeping with my wife. Now I will make him pay by taking his wife. I think if I have her, I'll be doing her a favor. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm a bit crazy. Ever since I caught my wife cheating, I've been like this. One day I came home early and walked into my house. I went to my bedroom to change clothes. There, on the bed, was my wife with another man. She saw me and screamed, and that guy thought he was doing a great job. He was just reaching the peak of pleasure when I grabbed him and pulled him away from my wife. I threw him to the floor and started beating him up. My wife just kept screaming. I gave him a good beating. I dragged him to the door and threw him out into the street naked. I threw his wallet and car keys onto the grass, but not his clothes. He staggered to his car, a bloody mess, and drove off. I never saw him again until fate brought us together again. Then I went back to the bedroom. My wife was quickly getting dressed. She cried, "Kevin, this isn't what it looked like. Please, let's talk about this. We can figure this out." "Not what it looked like," I said. "It looked like you had sex with that guy in our bed. Did you sleep with him or not?" "Please, Kevin, let me explain." I interrupted her. "Did you sleep with him or not? Just answer the question." I waited a few seconds and said, "Since you can't answer, our conversation is over. I'm going out for dinner. You have 1 hour to take what you want and get out of my life. If you're still here when I get back, I'll throw you out." Then I walked out the door. I waited 2 hours before returning. I hoped she would leave. When I got home, she was gone, and most of her stuff was too. She left me a note. I wasn't going to read it, but then I thought I should. Note from Rachel. "Dear Kevin, I made a big mistake. Jim means nothing to me. He was an old school friend I ran into by chance. We were lovers back in school. You knew I wasn't a virgin when we got married. It was Jim who was my first love. Everything just happened. Old memories never die. I met Jim at the mall. It was nice to see him again, like an old friend. Well, he started flirting with me, and I started remembering old times. He asked me where I lived, and we walked to the house. I should have been smarter, but I made a mistake. When we got to the bedroom, he pulled me into his arms and kissed me. It felt like old times. And then it happened. We started hugging like before, and then he took me. I wish it had never happened, but it did. I'm so sorry I hurt you. Please take me back. I promise to be a good wife and never cheat again. I really love you, Kevin. I always love you, Rachel." The note hurt me more. Now this idiot had a name. I loved my wife, but I believe that love can be lost. In my case, it disappeared. It was replaced by revenge. Revenge isn't what you want. It's something you just have to do. I would get mine. The next day, I canceled work to switch our bank accounts. I called most credit card companies and canceled them. I kept the 2 in my name for any expenses. Rachel's father called and asked what the problem was between me and Rachel. I got angry and said, "What's wrong with you? Didn't you ask your daughter about it?" I caught her having sex with one of her friends in our bed. I'm not forgiving, so I kicked her out. She could take what she wanted. I'm not giving her another dime. If she wants to go to court, that's fine. Otherwise, leave me alone. Then I hung up. 2 days later, Karen, Rachel's younger sister, called and asked if we could talk for a few minutes. I told her to go ahead. She started saying Rachel was really sorry, but I cut her off. I don't care how sorry Rachel is. Do you have anything else to say? If you mention Rachel again, I'll hang up. Your cheating sister is no longer in my life. Karen asked if there were any of Rachel's personal items left in the house. I told her Rachel had an hour to take what she wanted. If she forgot something, that's too bad. Karen mentioned a few things, and I started to get angry again. I said, Karen, I'll tell you what. You come here and give yourself to me on my bed, and I'll let you take whatever you want for your sister. She screamed, You pathetic jerk! How dare you talk to me like that? Wait until I tell my husband. I replied, Does this mean I won't get a chance to sleep with you? I always thought you'd be great in bed. Her husband was a weak guy, so I doubted he'd come to my door. I heard someone talking on the phone in the background. It was Rachel. Karen must have handed her the phone. All I heard was, Kevin, you jerk, and then I hung up. I contacted my lawyer and asked him to handle the paperwork without giving Rachel anything. We rented a house and each of us had our own car. I kept the savings accounts. Rachel never fought the divorce. I made it clear that I wouldn't talk to anyone in the family except Karen, and only if she did what I wanted. Karen was prettier than Rachel. Both were attractive, but Karen was younger. I was moving out of the house and the divorce was final. I called Karen and asked if she wanted to pick up some of Rachel's personal items. I was moving into an apartment and didn't want to take her stuff with me. If she didn't come, I would throw it all away. She quickly said yes and came that evening. I told her to come alone or with her husband, but Rachel couldn't come. When Karen arrived, she was alone. I asked about her husband, but she said he was busy. I knew he was just afraid. We went into the bedroom where I had packed Rachel's things. Karen reached for a box, and I said, Wait a minute, you haven't paid for it yet. She looked at me and said, You can't be serious. I'm not going to sleep with you. I laughed. Not sleep, just have sex. You've thought about it for a long time. I grabbed her as she hit my chest. Come on, Karen, you're not fooling anyone. It's just you and me. Then I kissed her. I slid my hand down her leg under her skirt and moved back up her thighs. She wasn't wearing underwear. I pushed her onto the bed. Tell me what you want, Karen. Tell me you want me to take you. She said, Please take me, Kevin. Please use protection. No protection, I replied. You'll get the full experience. What will it be? She was feeling hot. I took control, then zipped up my pants and looked at her. I grabbed a couple of boxes and headed to her car. When I returned, she started yelling, You just used me. How can you be so cold? What happened to you? He died. Your sister killed him. She did to me what I just did to your husband. I made him a weakling. You got what you wanted, like your sister. Now take your things and get out of my house. Tell your husband you cheated on him. He's probably weak enough to stay with you. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. You have all your sister's things, so there's no reason to come back. She called me a jerk, grabbed the last box, and left. She was great at sex, but I only wanted her to get back at her sister. Sex can never replace love. It's all you think about, taking revenge, getting even, making the guilty pay. That was my goal. I knew it wouldn't solve my problems, but I had to do it. Right or wrong, I was going to take revenge. Her name was Carly, a cute, petite girl I saw every day. Sometimes you can't get rid of a desire. That's how I felt when I saw her. She came to the restaurant with her girlfriends. They were all laughing and seemed happy. One of her friends was Marcia. I knew her for many years. We were friends, but not very close. Hi, Marcia, how are you today? Like friends. Marcia knew about my divorce. In a small community, almost everyone knows your business. One day, Marcia came into the restaurant alone during lunch, so I invited her to join me. I wanted to talk. She seemed a bit worried, but I told her it was just lunch. I was tired of eating alone. We talked about her family and how her kids were doing. She told me about her husband's promotion and other things. She asked about my life after the divorce. Everyone knew Rachel cheated on me, but no one knew with whom. If anyone asked, I just said I didn't know and it didn't matter. I asked Marcia about the new girl in their office. She said her name was Carly. She and her husband Jim moved here about a year ago. When she said Jim, I felt uneasy. Marcia looked at me and said, Kevin, Carly is happily married. You're not going to flirt with her, are you? Everyone knew I was tough since the divorce. I told Marcia that Carly was beautiful and I was just curious about her. She gave me more information about Jim. I had to find out if he was who I thought he was. If he was, I was determined to sleep with Carly. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't help it. One day at lunch, I was eating with a friend. He never asked about my personal life, so we got along well. While we were eating, Carly and her husband walked in. It was the guy I caught with my wife. I wanted to knock him out again, but I kept my cool. He didn't recognize me because he only saw me for a few seconds while I was beating him up. But I recognized him, and I decided to do to his wife what he did to mine. One day, Carly was alone in the restaurant. I introduced myself and mentioned that I was friends with Marcia. I wanted to make Carly comfortable. She smiled and introduced herself. I asked if she wanted to sit at the same table. She seemed nervous until I told her she would have to pay for her own lunch. This made her laugh. As we sat down, she told me about herself. She said her husband, Jim, was attacked by two men shortly after they moved here. They stole everything he had. He had to go to the emergency room and get stitches above his left eye. She said he was in a terrible state when he came home. He filed a police report, but the description wasn't good enough, and the police never caught the culprits. That explained why he never reported me to the police. After lunch, I told Carly it was nice to meet her and that she was welcome to join me anytime. Now I had a problem. I liked Carly. I needed revenge, but I didn't want to hurt her. What should I do? I had to think about it. I saw her almost every day, usually with other girls from her office. She always smiled at me. One day I told her I was going to start lunch an hour late, so I probably wouldn't see her anymore. The next day, she had lunch an hour late and was alone. She came to my table and asked to join me. I said yes, and we started having lunch together almost every day. We became good friends, and I started to have strong feelings for her. One day, I told her that I thought she was one of the most beautiful, sweetest women I had ever met. If she weren't married, I would ask her out. She got nervous and said, "But I'm married, Kevin. I may not have the best marriage, but I would never cheat on my husband. I can't. It's wrong." I asked, "What's wrong with your marriage?" She had tears in her eyes and said she thought her husband was cheating on her, but she wasn't sure. I took her hand and held it for a minute. She trembled as I tried to calm her down. I wondered what kind of man would cheat on a wonderful woman like Carly. Then I wondered if he was back with Rachel again. I told Carly I needed to talk to her about something important, but not there. I asked if she would meet me after work. "Kevin, I can't go to your apartment. What would it look like? What will people think?" I thought about Rachel for a second. Why couldn't she be like Carly? "Carly, it's really important. I care about you too much not to tell you what I know. Please meet me." "I think I trust you, Kevin. I really like you, but I don't know you well enough to be alone with you in your apartment. Can we meet here and talk, either in the car or in a restaurant?" "Okay, Carly, let's meet here after work. I'll even treat you to dinner." She smiled and said, "Boy, it must be important if you're willing to treat me to dinner," and laughed. I needed to get my thoughts in order. What would I say? How would I say it? I didn't want to risk alienating Carly. I wanted her for my revenge, but now I also wanted her for myself. Damn it. Kevin fell in love with another man's wife. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I just had to take her in front of her husband and laugh at him. Why did it have to be her? Damn it. We met for dinner. She told me she talked to Marcia, who told her about my divorce and how I caught my wife with another man. She said it must have been terrible to see that in my own home. She said she felt very sorry for me. She was so afraid of finding out the same thing about her husband that she didn't know how she would handle it if it happened to her. "Carly, there are a few things I need to tell you about myself. I know you're married, but I'm falling in love with you. Please, Kevin, don't say anything else. I'm a married woman. Carly, I need to tell you this. You have to listen. I'm falling in love with you. My problem is that I'm a stubborn person. Seeing my wife with her lover made me this way. I know people say I'm a sneaky guy now. I can't help it. I always walk around with a chip on my shoulder. My wife put this chip there with her lover. My plan was revenge. I was going to find her lover's wife and take her in front of her husband." "Yes, that man was married to—" Carly interrupted me. "Please, Kevin, you don't have to tell me that. It's so personal, and I know it hurts you to talk about it. I can hear it in your voice." "Let me continue, please, Carly. I plan to get back at my wife's lover by taking his wife in front of him. Now I have a big problem. The woman I was going to take by force, if necessary, is the woman I fell in love with." Carly covered her face with her hands in shock. She knew that the man was her husband. Tears rolled down Carly's face. "My God, this is so hard to believe. How do you know? How can you be so sure? Were you going to hurt me to get back at my husband?" She cried more. I went to hug her to comfort her, but she stopped me. "Please don't touch me right now," she said. "I need to think. Carly, a year ago, I found this man in my bedroom. I beat him up and threw him out of my house without any clothes. All I knew was that his name was Jim." I pulled out the note that Rachel had left for me. For some strange reason, I had saved it. I handed it to Carly to read. She cried while reading it. "I've been watching you for the past 6 months. Every day you go down to the restaurant for lunch. Day after day, I waited to meet you. You were the only bright spot in my life. I gradually fell in love with you. At first, I didn't know you were married. I never approached you because I had character problems and was still planning my revenge. Then one day, I asked Marcia about you. She told me you were married, and I felt awkward. I wanted to know you better, but I didn't want to ruin your marriage. The next day, your husband met you for lunch. That's when I realized who he was. I did everything not to beat him up again. If you were any other woman, I would have already taken you before his eyes for revenge." Carly cried with her hands folded in front of her. I continued. "I fell in love with you and couldn't hurt the woman I love. Now I am confused. I want to hurt your husband, not you. I want to be with you. It's been a long time since I felt love. The past year has been about revenge. I believe your husband went back to Rachel since they were childhood sweethearts and she is now divorced. How do you feel about me, Carly? I need to know. No matter how you feel, I won't hurt you. I just couldn't do it now. I know I'm a stubborn, vindictive person, but I have another side. One that hasn't seen the light of day for a year. I want to show you this side of me. Please give me a chance. I could be a kinder, gentler person for the right woman. For some reason, I believe you are that woman. There's a good guy inside me. Revenge blocks his path. Help me, Carly. Help me take revenge on your husband. Then if you want, we could build a happy life together." Oh my God, Kevin. So many things at once. My mind is full of questions. Right now, I don't have any answers. I'm not even sure how I feel about you, my husband, or myself. I need to think about everything you've told me before I can give you any answers. Please understand I'm not playing a prank or pushing you away. I want to help you. You seem so hurt inside, but I don't know. I just don't know. After a somewhat unpleasant dinner, I walked Carly to her car. I told her I was sorry if I upset her, but I thought she should know the truth. I promised to do everything to communicate with her and solve both of our problems. Now might not have been the right time to tell her about my feelings, but I would have exploded if I hadn't. I just wanted her to know. She let me give her a small hug before leaving. I hadn't solved any problem. I might have made things worse. Perhaps telling her about her husband's past was the wrong thing to do. I had no idea what she was thinking. I just hoped everything would turn out well for her. The next day, I couldn't wait to see her at lunch. I had to know her feelings and thoughts. I went to the restaurant where we usually ate. I waited for her, but she never showed up. My God, what have I done? Did she argue with her husband? Was he trying to hurt her? If he did, I would have killed him. Maybe she told him about me. God, her no-show made me worry. I didn't know if I should call her at home or wait another day. It was hard to finish my workday. I did everything I could to take my mind off Carly. When I returned home, my phone rang. It was Carly. Her voice sounded upset. "Kevin, I have to see you. I know I said I shouldn't come to you, but everything has changed. Can I come in, please? I want to make sure I see you tonight." Oh my God, Carly, I was so worried about you. I felt so bad today after not seeing you at lunch. Did that jerk hurt you? If he did, I'll deal with him. Yes, come right now, I'll be waiting. When I hung up, the doorbell rang. I wondered who it could be. I opened the door and Carly was standing there, smiling. "I followed you home. I needed to know if you were serious about helping me. When you answered the phone like that, I knew you were honest. Sorry for the test, but I had to be sure." I was so glad to see her. I hugged her tightly. It felt so good. "Why didn't you go to lunch today?" I asked. Last night, I spent the whole evening trying to put my thoughts in order. Jim, my husband, came home late. He used his usual excuse about working late. I tried to be a little affectionate, but he didn't want any part of it. He said he was tired and went to bed. I thought, if a man refuses to be with a woman like Carly, he must be crazy. Carly continued, I waited until Jim went to work this morning, then decided to do some detective work. I went through his computer files looking for hidden files or emails. Thanks to the information you gave me, I found several things. She handed me some papers. I'll explain so you don't have to read all the details. First of all, I don't love Jim anymore. After what I learned about him, I think I despise him. I don't like being used, and that's one of my potential problems with you. I grabbed her hands and squeezed them. She said, I'm not sure how I feel about you. Part of me cares about you, but another part says to be careful. You might just want to use me for revenge and then throw me away. So for now, I want to keep our relationship on hold. If you care about me like you say, you'll wait until things are clearer. I smiled and said, That's all I ask. This is a chance to prove myself. I really care about you. If I move too fast, just tell me to slow down. Can we seal our deal with a kiss before we begin your detective work? She smiled widely and said, No, let's get started right away. My husband applied for this job here. He wasn't just transferred. He asked to be transferred. That was his first lie. This was his old hometown. I didn't think much about it then. I loved him, so I agreed to move. He went to a high school reunion about 16 months ago. Did your ex-wife go too? I remembered. I had a family holiday for my mom's birthday, so I went there instead. He told me reunions are boring. My wife had a homecoming that weekend too. I had a business trip and asked her to come, but she wanted to see her old friends. I never thought about it until now. Damn, you're a good detective, I said. Here are some emails they exchanged before the reunion. Not love letters, but they were planning to see each other. And here are a couple of emails from after the reunion. When you caught them 4 months later, it wasn't their first time. They had been seeing each other for 4 months. I got angry. This cheating jerk told me, Oh, honey, it's not what you think, it just happened. I thought my revenge was over since we were no longer married, but now everything has changed. Carly could see the anger in my eyes. I told her I wasn't mad at her, but being cheated on by my ex-wife really pissed me off. Then I said, I really need a kiss to calm down, or I'm going to punch a wall. I got up and went to the wall. Stop, madman, I'll kiss you, she screamed. She came towards me, hugged me, and kissed me gently. When our lips parted, I looked into her eyes and kissed her again with more feeling. When we parted for the second time, she said, That's enough, Tiger, I'm only human too. When we sat down again, I thanked her. She looked at me and said, It pleases me. Now let's get back to work. I can't stay all night. We both laughed, thinking the same thing. Here are my husband's phone records for the last year. This number gets calls almost daily. I called the phone company and it belongs to someone named Rachel Miller. This is my wife's maiden name. I didn't know she took it back or had a cell phone. When was it purchased? According to my husband's phone records, about a month before he was beaten up. That means she had the phone before you caught them. This might explain why they got away with it for so long, and why she didn't fight for more money during the divorce. Some of this might have come out and hurt her case. What about you, Carly? Where do you stand in all this? For me, it's mostly revenge, but you're still married to that jerk. What do you want us to do? She looked at me, noticing I said we instead of you. I want to thank him for everything we have. I want to make him regret ever doing this to me. I want to embarrass him in public. How can I do all this without becoming a cheater? I want to save my pride and hopefully yours. Carly, can you stay in his house for a couple of weeks without giving anything away? No problem. I just don't want to have sex with him. But I have no issue cooking a dinner or two if he keeps seeing his girlfriend. I'll be fine. Well, Carly, first you need to go shopping. We can go during lunch if you want. Make sure you use joint credit cards in both your names. We don't want you to get in trouble if you only use cards in his name. Buy everything you've always wanted. Get into as much debt as you can. Take a few cash advances and put the money in a savings account. Or buy bonds and stocks. Kevin, aren't you a stockbroker? Why don't you invest for me? I didn't want you to have any doubts about me. I really care about you, and I want you to trust me. I can invest the money for you if you want. I just want you to know that I'm here to help you. If at any point you decide to make love to me, it will be for you. We decided to start with the credit cards. As she stood up to leave, I asked if I would get any more kisses tonight. She hugged me, opened her mouth slightly, and kissed me. I felt like a teenager and pulled her closer. She pressed against me, then pulled away, saying, "Damn, you're good. See you tomorrow at lunch?" She smiled and got into her car. The next day, instead of lunch, we went to a couple of banks using her joint credit cards. She took out thousands of dollars in cash advances. This gave her a month to complete all her transfers before the bills were due. She was smart. She didn't max out any cards in case he used any of them. She found out he was charging motel rooms twice a week from one of the cards. We did our banking for 3 days using 7 different cards. I took the checks and deposited all the money for her. I used tax-exempt government bonds and other accounts that would be difficult to withdraw money from. Carly made me co-signer on the accounts so her husband couldn't get any money. I wanted her to feel secure because of the investment and because of me. I started finding out the latest news about my ex. I couldn't find much. I gave Carly all the information I could about her, and she took advantage of it. She said Rachel now works for the same company as her husband. Rachel was one of the company's secretaries. Carly used her connections to find out where they spent their time when not at work. They became sloppy because they cheated for so long, thinking no one noticed. Carly told her friends to start taking pictures and notes about everything happening. I learned that everyone loved Carly. All the other secretaries respected her. Whenever they had computer problems, they called her. I learned she was obsessed with computers, but without looking like a nerd. She went from office to office, helping secretaries with their computer problems. They never felt humiliated because Carly always took the time to explain things. They all felt like they were protecting her. I didn't know about my revenge. How was I going to do this? I couldn't hurt Carly, not now when she was the only good person in my life. My ex-wife had left my life, but I wouldn't mind getting a little revenge on her since it was a long-term affair before our divorce. But how? And what could I do without Carly's help? I'm not sure I could have gotten through this. Carly told me she couldn't just have sex with me right now. If she did, she would be no better than my cheating wife or her husband. She really cared about me, but she was still married. I needed a plan. What to do. Like I told you, I was a tough guy and had been for a year. I worked out and kept myself in good shape. I had many friends of dubious character. They were pimps and prostitutes. I was their investment broker. We made a lot of money together. They made money, and I invested it for them. Yes, I did have affairs with several of the girls. Believe it or not, some of them were nice people. Others, not so much. Fortunately, I knew who was who. It was good to be friends with them. They did me a lot of good. I didn't humiliate them. I may not have agreed with their lifestyle, but they were people too. I called one of my pimp friends and asked him for a favor. When I finished explaining, he laughed and said, "Dude, you're a terrible guy. You know this will cost you. There are no freebies." "No problem, Big Louis. Just make sure everything is done right. This might even be a bonus for you." My plan was coming together. One evening, Carly and I met to plan our secret operation. She was worried that I might still want to pick her up in public, which went against everything she believed. She truly was a special woman with good character. I promised her, and God is my witness, that I would never hurt or embarrass her. She gave me her trademark smile and said, "I think I'm really falling in love with you. Just thought you should know." I asked her to take the next couple of days off as vacation, sick leave, or maternity leave. It didn't matter, except that we only had a couple of days to organize everything to succeed. It all had to work perfectly. "Well, what's our plan, Kevin? How are you going to get revenge without using me? What do you need me to do?" "First, stop asking so many questions," I smiled at her. "So next Wednesday, you say they have room 109 booked?" "Yes. They reserved it until 10 in the evening. They always seem to book the same room for about 5 hours. It's not the best motel, but they rent by the hour. Funny, the way Jim made love to me, he could have rented it for 15 minutes and saved money." "Okay. Tomorrow I'm going to book the same room for Wednesday morning. I'll set up a remote control camera. You need to meet with my lawyer, Sally Hawk. She's the best, no-nonsense lawyer. Write this down. This will be your divorce decree stating you want a divorce under these circumstances. By Wednesday night, you'll need Jim's signature on it." "How do you know he'll sign it, Kevin? What if he says no? What will I do?" "Don't worry, Carly. I'm pretty sure he'll sign it. The consequences are too great. Do you want to know the whole plan, or do you want to be surprised?" "Oh my God, Kevin, you're driving me crazy. I need to know. You seem so excited, and it's rubbing off on me. I want this revenge as much as you do. Then I just hope you feel the same way about me as I do about you." Are we really going to ruin their lives, Kevin? I don't feel good about this. I just want to get even. We're going to throw their lives into chaos, but their lives will go on unless they're stupid enough not to sign the divorce papers. Here's the plan. They usually meet between 5 and 6 p.m. Jim gets there about half an hour before Rachel, so we'll work on him. My friend Big Louie will visit Jim. Sally and Sue, who are not working due to a severe case of syphilis, will join him. I'll pay them for unprotected sex with Jim. Big Louie will make sure he takes care of his girls. Jim won't want to cross Big Louie. How do you know these people, Kevin? They're my clients. They make a lot of money and I help them invest it. When Rachel arrives, she can either deal with Jim or face Big Louie. During all this, you and I will sit in a van and control the camera. When the time is right, you'll go in, catch them red-handed, and demand a divorce. Then you'll give Jim a choice. Sign the divorce papers, or you walk away with the tape and send a copy to his employers and the company's home office. The choice is his. After that, you return to the van. Big Louie will be there to protect you. He won't leave until you do. What do you think, Carly? Will it work? She smiled at me. You're doing this more for me than for yourself, aren't you? There's another side to you, and I'm starting to really like it. Over the next 2 days, we prepared everything. Carly met with Sally Hawk, our lawyer, who said she wanted to be there for Jim's signing of the divorce papers. She was the best divorce lawyer in the state and was excited about the plan. Big Louie was ready. We paid him in advance and promised him an extra $500 if all went well. He simply smiled and said, "No problem." I went to the motel and booked a room for Wednesday afternoon. The receptionist said I had to leave by 4 p.m. because the room was already rented. Carly and I went to lunch at a nice restaurant. We saw my ex-sister-in-law having lunch with a man who wasn't her husband. I told Carly who it was, and she asked if it would hurt our plans. I told her that the man with Karen wasn't her husband, and since she didn't know Carly, we could enjoy our lunch. When Karen saw me, she was horrified, caught at the crime scene. She was very nervous, wondering who I was with. Carly looked great, with her breasts showing slightly and her skirt above the knee. Carly quickly understood the situation. She moved to sit next to me instead of across from me. Then she turned my face towards her and kissed me deeply. Not only Karen, but everyone around noticed. Carly pulled away and smiled. "Do you think that caught anyone's attention?" Then she kissed me again. She stopped when the waiter made strange noises. I looked at the waiter and said, "She's a very beautiful woman, isn't she?" He replied, "Yes, that's true, sir." "You belong to me, don't you, honey?" I asked her. "Only for you, baby. I belong only to you," she smiled. God, I hoped it was true, but I knew she was putting on a show for Karen to report back to Rachel. Karen never came to see us. Carly and I finished our lunch and headed out. We went to an electronics store and bought the equipment we needed. When we left, Carly said the kiss in the restaurant was real. She wasn't joking, though she did it to spite my ex-sister-in-law. Wednesday morning arrived. Carly and I were both on edge. Revenge always strains the nerves. Every detail had to be timed perfectly, with no room for error. Carly met with Sally to make sure the divorce papers were ready. I went to the motel and set up the video equipment. I parked the rental van outside so it wouldn't be conspicuous. That evening, Carly and I visited Big Louie. When he saw Carly, he was stunned. "God, dude, who is this doll?" he asked. I introduced Carly. She was nervous, but Big Louie had that effect on people. He was about 2 meters tall, weighed about 145 kilograms, and was darker than the ace of spades. But he was really smart with a master's degree in business. His fortune was in the millions. I knew because I was his financial broker. He saw Carly was nervous and told her, "Don't worry, little lady, nobody will harm you. Kevin is my friend and I respect him. I will make sure you are protected. Nobody will harm you." She felt better and thanked him. Louis said he and his girls would show up around 5:15 p.m. He wanted to give Jim a few minutes to clean himself up earlier that day. Carly used her computer skills and emailed Jim and Rachel, pretending it was from someone else. The email said, "Honey, I have a special treat for you tonight. Please don't ask any questions when you arrive. I know you'll be surprised. Just keep going. Also, to make it even more special, let's not communicate for the rest of the day. I want you to remember this night forever. Love you." At 4:45 p.m., Carly and I got into our van and waited. At exactly 5 p.m., Jim arrived and entered the room. We were very nervous. This was a big operation for us. At 5:15 p.m., we watched Big Louie enter the room with Sally and Sue. When they knocked on the door, we turned on our cameras. We had 2 cameras set up, one above the lights and the other inside the fire alarm. The quality of the pinhole camera image was incredible. I had to remember to come back tomorrow and pick up the cameras. Carly and I were nervous when Big Louie knocked on the door. When Jim opened it, we heard him ask, "Who are you?" Louie explained, "I was paid to bring 2 of my women here for some fun." Jim said it must be a mistake. Louie then asked, "Are you having trouble having fun with my ladies, mate? Are you Jim Nelson?" Jim said yes, but wasn't expecting company. Louie told him they were paid in advance to come and have fun with him. They didn't do refunds. He then pushed his way inside and told his girls to help Jim undress. We started recording. Jim was nervous, thinking it was a surprise from Rachel since he had received the email earlier. So, he took off his clothes. A little about Sally and Sue. Sally was black and Sue was white. They were attractive women, even though they were sex workers. They were good at what they did. The only problem was that they had syphilis, which was easily transmitted through contact. The girls laid Jim naked on the bed and rubbed him all over. Big Louie just sat back and watched. The girls were good. Carly watched them through our remote control. She was both sad and happy. Sad that her husband, with whom she had lived for 5 years, decided to cheat on her, and happy that her revenge had begun. There was a knock on the door, and Big Louie opened it to find Rachel standing there. He told her to come in. She asked what was going on when she saw Jim on the bed with a black woman. She didn't know what to think. All she knew was that Jim had sent her an email about a special surprise. Big Louie told her to undress. She was scared looking at this big man telling her what to do. He told her he had no intention of touching her. He was there to protect his girls. Sue, in her bra and panties, helped Rachel undress. Sue pressed herself against Rachel. Rachel screamed, having never been with another woman. She thought it was Jim's plan, so she let it happen. The cameras recorded everything, both sound and video. Both Jim and Rachel were over the moon. Once Rachel recovered, Sally and Sue got dressed. There was a knock on the van door. It was Sally Hawk, our lawyer. She asked how things were going and then looked at the monitor. Jim and Rachel were transferring their disease to each other. Sally and Sue returned to their car and waited for Big Louie. They did their job well. Big Louie waited outside the door to protect Carly and Sally if needed. Carly and Sally walked to the door at the same time. Carly entered first. "You damn son of a bitch, you're a worthless piece of crap, you're a lying idiot." Carly used every curse word she knew. "I want a divorce, and I want it now." Jim and Rachel stopped, seeing Carly at the door. They were caught red-handed and couldn't explain themselves. Carly continued, "Why, Jim? Why wasn't I good enough for you? Why did you get involved with this woman? I knew you were having an affair. I was hoping you would stop, but no. You kept doing this. I'm done. I want a divorce, and I want it as soon as possible." Then Sally Hawk came in. "Jim, this is my lawyer, Sally Hawk. She will explain the terms of the divorce. I want to start the process tonight to get you out of my life quickly so you can be with your girlfriend." Jim and Rachel got out of bed and started getting dressed. They didn't have time to shower, so the venereal disease was likely starting to spread. I'm Sally Hawk, Carly's lawyer. The divorce terms are simple and clear. 1. Carly will go home tonight and have 24 hours to pack everything she wants. You won't be there tonight. After 24 hours, she won't return. The apartment is rented in your name, so you get it. 2. You will be responsible for all bills due before today. This includes all credit cards in your name or jointly. Carly will give you all the joint cards tonight and will never use them again. She will handle any cards in her name only. 3. Each of you has your own vehicle and will be responsible for its insurance, payment, and maintenance. 4. Your savings account with $8,000 will go to Carly. She will withdraw the money tomorrow. 5. You both have retirement funds. You have over $80,000 and Carly has $15,000. You will keep your own retirement funds. If you agree to these terms, you will sign the decree tonight. This is final. No changes once it is signed. Carly has already signed. You just need to sign where it says husband. Sally handed him the document to review and sign. Rachel sat and watched. Jim asked, "What if I don't sign tonight? What will you do?" Sally replied, The document will be canceled in 5 minutes when I leave. Then we will go to court and demand the same benefits, plus half of your pension fund. This is a good deal for you. I advise you to take it." Carly walked to the closet, opened it, and took out a tape from the VCR. "This is a recording of today's events. This will be part of our divorce process." Jim said, "I'm not that stupid. You can't use this tape. You recorded it without permission." Sally laughed. "You really are a fool. We won't use it in court, but we will make copies and send them to your company and its home office. I'm sure they don't approve of their married employees having affairs." Jim took a step towards them when Big Louie re-entered the room. "You don't mean to hurt my friends, do you, Jim?" Jim backed off. "Well, Jim, you have 3 minutes to decide, then we leave," Sally said. Rachel turned to Jim and whispered, "Jim, Sally Hawk was my ex-husband's lawyer and I didn't get a dime. They say she's the best in the state. You better take this offer or you'll be in big trouble. Besides, we'll lose our jobs if this tape gets out." Sally looked at Jim. "1 minute, then we leave. See you in court." As they turned to leave, Jim shouted, "Wait, I'll sign, but only if I get the tape." Carly looked at Big Louie and handed him the tape. "After Sally and I leave, you can give Jim the tape," she said. She also handed him an envelope with the promised $500 bonus. Sally repeated, "This document is final. If you have questions, contact me. Do not disturb Carly under any circumstances or I will have you arrested. If you understand, sign the document. Then I'll give you a copy along with the tape and joint credit cards. Remember, Carly has 24 hours to remove what she wants from the apartment. The divorce is considered no fault and will be completed within 2 months." Jim signed the papers and Sally gave him a copy. Carly and Sally walked out. Shortly after, we saw Big Louie hand the tape to Jim and then leave with his girls. Carly and Sally returned to the van with big smiles. Carly kissed me quickly. Everyone seemed happy until Sally spoke. "Kevin, until the divorce is finalized, you can't see Carly. We can't let anyone see you two together. As long as you're not involved, everything should go smoothly. I know the credit card charges over the past 2 weeks are a challenge, but we have our documents. Unless someone suspects Carly of trying to defraud the banks, we'll be fine. That's why I let Jim keep his pension fund. If he tries to file for bankruptcy, the banks will go after him, not Carly. There's only $8,000 in Carly's name, which she will pick up tomorrow. I suggest you keep the money in the same bank, but only in your name to avoid banking issues." Sally continued, "After the divorce, there should be no more problems, and you two can be together. It will be up to you, Kevin. You told me your employer asked you to open a brokerage firm in another state for a couple of months. I advise you to take it as soon as possible. Carly will be okay. I'll keep an eye on her. I hate to say it, but right now you are Carly's biggest problem. I can't force you to do anything, but I strongly advise it." Carly was crying, so I hugged her. I knew Sally was right. Now I was the only problem, the weak link. I kissed Carly goodbye and told her to contact me after the divorce. I would wait for her. Sally and Carly got out of the van. Sally took Carly home so she could take whatever she wanted. Earlier that day, they had hired a moving truck so Carly could pack up her things. Sally did say that I could call her if I needed to talk or wanted to know anything about Carly. After the girls left, I looked at the monitor again and noticed that Jim and Rachel had left. I went back to the room and collected my equipment. I brought a spare copy of the tape with me just in case we needed it in the future. Funny how no one ever wonders if there is a second copy. 2 cameras, 2 recording devices. I packed it all up and headed home. I was really happy for Carly, but sad for myself. The next day, I went and talked to my boss. I asked about temporary work and was supposed to fly to Chicago on Friday. I hoped things would work out for Carly. She truly was a wonderful person. Looks like she got her revenge. I was the only one left in the cold. It was fun helping Carly. I really loved her. When I arrived in Chicago, I threw myself into my work. We were starting a new brokerage firm from scratch. If I wasn't working, I was sitting in my room thinking about Carly. During the first 2 weeks, I kept wondering if Carly was okay. One day, I called Sally Hawk. She was glad to hear from me. She said everything was going as expected. Jim hired a lawyer to contest the divorce, but his lawyer told him he didn't stand a chance against Sally. Jim hurled accusations at Carly, saying she set him up, but he had no proof. Sally warned Jim that if he kept accusing Carly, she would sue him. She was fed up with his whining. Sally also mentioned that both Jim and Rachel had contracted syphilis. They had to undergo a course of injections and couldn't have sex until they were cleared. This brought a smile to my face. Sally said Carly had moved into a nice apartment near her work. She took about half of her things from the old apartment to set up her new one. She was told not to talk about me to avoid any connections. Of course, she wasn't dating anyone, but it had only been a couple of weeks. Sally said Carly really missed me and thought I was a really nice guy. I wish I could say that time flew by in Chicago, but it didn't. I didn't feel much better than before this whole revenge thing started. At least then, I could see Carly walking by every day. I went to Michigan to visit my parents for Thanksgiving. It was nice to see the family. I took my sister Christmas shopping and bought something for everyone. I even went to a jewelry store and bought an engagement ring for Carly, hoping that one day she would say yes. After Thanksgiving, I headed back to Chicago, figuring I'd be there for another 3 weeks. All I could think about was being cold, windy, and lonely. The city lights were beautiful, but I had no one to share them with. The new agents and I built the business from the ground up. Things were going well, and many clients came to start investing before the end of the year. When I returned to Ohio, my boss met me. He praised me for the new company's achievements. From a work point of view, everything was great. I just hoped my personal life would improve, too. As soon as I got back to my apartment 2 days before Christmas, I called Sally Hawk. I didn't even have Carly's number since she moved. Sally was happy to hear from me. She asked about the business, and I told her everything went well. I asked about Carly and how the divorce process was going. She hesitated before telling me that the divorce was finalized 2 days earlier. I asked for Carly's phone number. Sally said she couldn't give it to me, but would let Carly know I was back in town. I thanked her, and she wished me good luck. I wasn't sure how to feel. Carly was now divorced. I had no idea what she had been thinking about for the last few months while I was in Chicago. I had the idea of going to our favorite restaurant where we used to have lunch. I hoped to see her there. My friend Marcia saw me and waved. I invited her to join me, hoping to learn something. Marcia was glad to see me again. She had heard I was opening a new agency in Chicago. We chatted as usual and talked about the holidays. She told me about her family and how everything was going well. I asked if Carly was still with the company. Marcia said yes, but mentioned that she and her husband had recently divorced. Everything happened quickly. She said Carly must have taken it hard because she didn't seem happy. Carly refused to date and spent most of her time working. Marcia felt sorry for her but said it was something Carly had to deal with on her own. Everyone still loved her and hoped she would find the right guy someday. She deserved better than a cheating husband. I asked Marcia if Carly was working today. She said Carly was there but left for the afternoon about an hour ago and wouldn't be back until after Christmas. I wished Marcia a Merry Christmas and asked her to send my greetings to her family. Then I went home. There was nothing on the answering machine. I was starting to feel a bit down when the phone rang. I jumped up to answer, hoping it was Carly, but it wasn't her. It was another telemarketer asking for money. I threw the phone back on the table, frustrated. I knew Carly had to call me about her investment, but it wasn't necessary. Other agents were available to update my files while I was away. My agents and I shared any new business assigned to my client base. I could call the office and check on Carly's accounts. I quickly called, but it went to voicemail. I looked at my watch. It was 5:12 p.m. Offices were closed for the holidays until Monday. I was stuck in the dark over the holiday weekend. All offices were closed. My emotions were getting out of control. Did I have Carly or had I lost her? I needed to know something. How was I supposed to survive the weekend without any news? The phone rang again. I ran to answer it. It was Sally, my lawyer. She called to let me know I had returned to Cali. She also said that everything regarding the divorce was final. Jim could no longer file motions. He tried, but lost them all. He had to cash out more than half of his retirement fund to pay his bank credit card charges. I told Sally she was a true friend and great to do business with. I thanked her for the information and wished her a Merry Christmas. There was a knock on the door. I opened it and saw Mary, my neighbor. She picked up my mail and cleaned my apartment while I was gone. I invited her in for a few minutes. Mary was a sweet older woman who cleaned apartments to supplement her income. She usually cleaned mine about twice a week. She handed me my mail and gave me a tray of homemade cookies for the holidays. I asked her to wait a second because I had a gift for her too. I went in and gave her an envelope with 3 crisp $100 bills for Christmas. She smiled and thanked me before leaving. We needed more kind ladies like Mary in this world. She was a pleasure to be around. I was hungry, so I called the local pizzeria and ordered a pizza for delivery. I didn't want to go out. I asked them to stop by the grocery store and buy me another 12-pack of Miller Lite. That's the nice part of living in a small town. I decided to turn on the TV to watch the news and wait for my pizza. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. I got up to get my pizza. When I opened the door, Carly was standing there with a big smile on her face. Tears welled up in my eyes. "I thought you were the pizza delivery guy," I said. She smiled. "Sorry to disappoint you. No pizza, just me." I pulled her into the living room, hugged her tightly. "God, I missed you, Carly. I missed you so much. It's so nice to see you again." She was about to say something when the doorbell rang again. I opened it, and it was the pizza guy with my beer and pizza. I quickly paid him and closed the door. I turned back to Carly. "Are you hungry? We have pizza and beer." Holding both, Carly smiled. "You're a funny guy. I had a plan for what to say, and now I can't think straight. I need to tell you a couple of things, then we can eat while the pizza is still hot. I know you hate cold pizza." "Okay, big guy, I missed you too. In case you haven't heard, I'm now a divorced woman. I just found out today that you were back. I didn't want to leave a phone message. It felt too impersonal. I needed to talk to you in person. I left work early after Sally called to tell me you were home. I even bought you a Christmas present. You'll see it after we finish eating. It's not every day you buy me dinner, so let's eat." As I got us a couple of paper plates, I asked, "What kind of gift is it?" She smiled her ice-melting smile and said, "You'll see. Now eat your pizza and pass me the beer." She laughed. While we ate, we talked about her work and how well it was going. I told her about the agency we had opened and explained the details. We both avoided serious topics, knowing they would come up soon. After we finished eating, Carly looked at me. "Are you ready for your kind of gift now?" I smiled and said, "Yes. Where is it?" Carly held up a small bag the size of a lunchbox. "I'll be right back," she said as she left the room. I put the pizza and beer on the counter and walked to the drawer where I kept the ring I bought for her. I took it out and put it in my pocket. "Are you ready?" she shouted from the bedroom. "I think so," I shouted back. She came in wearing a lacy red silk bra and bikini panties with a little red silk bow in her hair. "I bought this for you today. You can unwrap it if you want. I'm no longer a married woman, and now I wouldn't cheat on any husband. If you want your present, we can go into the bedroom and you can unwrap it." Tears streamed down my face. This was the woman I had wanted for over a year. She stood offering herself to me. I looked at her and said, "On one condition." I reached into my pocket, pulled out the ring, and said, "If you marry me." She began to cry and ran to me as I hugged her soft, warm body. "Yes, I will marry you. Yes, 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 God, how I love you." I picked her up and carried her to my bedroom. She lay on the bed, looking beautiful and sexy. I stripped down to my underwear. This was our first time together. It had to be good. I knew it would be. I took my time, kissing her neck tenderly. Everything I was going to do from then on was going to be gentle, like making love to an angel. She raised her arms above her head as I began to kiss between her breasts. She smelled wonderful. I think she said it was White Diamond's perfume. Oh my God, she smelled so good. I wanted to savor every moment. I kissed her breasts while unclasping her lace silk bra, bringing it to my nose to inhale the scent. I slid one hand down to her flat stomach. She was so sexy. I felt her suck in air every time I pressed on her stomach. She was getting hot. As I descended, I could smell her feminine scent rising. Carly didn't say anything, just moaned softly. I could feel her excitement in the movements of her body. I stood up and slowly finished unwrapping my gift. When we finished, she whispered, "Kevin, I love you so much." We fell asleep. We must have slept for a long time because when we woke up, the house and room were completely dark. It had been a long time since I woke up next to the woman I wanted beside me. I had to get up and use the bathroom. I couldn't wait any longer. Carly stood up while I was in the bathroom and rummaged through my dresser drawers, pulling out a long t-shirt. It had never looked so good on anyone before. Carly showered and freshened up while I put the leftover pizza in the refrigerator. It always tasted better the next day. While we ate the pizza, we talked some more. I asked Carly when she wanted to get married. She replied that she wanted it to happen as soon as possible. She didn't want to wait. By then, it was around 10 p.m. I called Sally Hawk at her house. She answered, "What's the matter, Kevin?" She must have had caller ID. I told her that Carly and I had a problem and maybe she could help. "What's the matter, Kevin? I'll help if I can." "Carly and I want to get married as soon as possible, but tomorrow is Christmas Eve and we need a judge to marry us. Do you know anyone?" Sally started laughing. "So Carly called you, didn't she? I'm happy for both of you. Meet me tomorrow morning at the courthouse. We'll get your marriage certificate and then go to my house. You see, Mr. Hawk, my husband is a judge. I know he will marry you. See you tomorrow at 9 o'clock sharp." The next morning, Carly, looking beautiful, and I, dressed in a suit, met Sally at the courthouse. We got our certificate and headed to Sally's house to get married. Her husband seemed like a nice guy for a judge. You never know what to expect from lawyers and judges, but we knew Sally was the best. Carly didn't have many relatives in the area, just a few distant ones. So we decided to head to Michigan and surprise my family with my new wife. They were overjoyed. Enthused would be a better word. They all loved Carly. How could they not? She was definitely part of the family. Christmas turned out to be pretty good after all. We had to return after Christmas. We both had jobs and now had to move. We decided to live in my apartment since she had a month's rent left on hers anyway. Every day after work, we would move some of her things to my place. It was fun doing almost everything together. The girls where she worked were so happy for her. They said the old Carly was back. Marcia was a little shocked when she found out I was her new husband, remembering that I was a tough guy and very vindictive. Carly reassured her, "Don't worry, Marcia. He's a puppy, and I love him very much." A big New Year's party was approaching. Almost all the successful business people in the area were attending. I asked Carly, "Honey, do you want to go to the party of the year? It's our first time for everyone to see us together. I want to show you off. Besides, even our spouses may be there." Carly thought for a moment, then looked at me and said, "Kevin, I love you with all my heart, and I want everyone to know it. Yes, we will go to the New Year's party, my dear husband." We went to the New Year's party. Carly looked stunning. She wore a red blouse that matched perfectly with her lace bra and red silk panties. Lace and silk don't get much sexier. The blouse had a low neckline that showed off her ample bust. She wore a black miniskirt with a lace hem. She had to watch how she sat because her thigh was visible through the side slit. She looked so good, dressed to the point of being provocative, but in a good way. Everyone wanted us to sit at their table. My boss and his group, Carly's friends, and even the few friends I had. Sally and Judge Hawk invited us to their table. That's where we decided to sit. I looked at Sally and told her I had never seen a lawyer look so good. She looked fantastic. They introduced us to everyone else at their table. It was mostly judges and their wives, and they all seemed like nice people. The music was loud, but it was New Year's Eve. Carly and I got up and did all the slow dances. Other men asked Carly to dance, but she always said, "Not this year. I only want to dance with my husband." This was our year to be together. The only exception we made was that I danced one dance with Sally, and Carly danced once with the judge. They were special friends. As we danced, we ended up next to Karen, my ex-wife's sister. We almost ran into Karen and her husband on the crowded dance floor. She looked and said, "Oh my God, it's Kevin!" "Good evening, Karen, and Happy New Year to you," I said. "I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Carly. Carly, this is Karen and her husband." He reached out to shake Carly's hand. "Bob, my name is Bob." Carly gave him her signature smile. "Nice to meet you, Bob and Karen." Carly then looked at Karen and said, "Didn't we meet before at Robson's restaurant on 40 Old Road about 2 months ago?" Bob replied, "No, that place is too expensive for us." Karen turned pale and said, "It was nice to meet you. We must get back to our table." We knew she would go back and tell Jim and Rachel that we were there. We glanced at their table. Rachel downed her drink when she realized I was there. We saw them quickly turn and look at us. We heard Rachel say, "Oh my God, Jim, he's with your ex-wife." Jim nearly fell out of his chair trying to see us. Karen looked at Rachel and said, "Rachel, he introduced her as his wife." Jim said, "That son of a bitch set us up. They took us for over $100,000 and gave us a sexually transmitted disease. How did they know everything?" Rachel said, "Kevin told me he'd get even with us someday." Jim said, "Maybe we can take them back to court." Karen laughed. "Stop it, you two. Do you see who they are sitting with? Sally Hawk and half a dozen judges. And if that's not enough, Jim, he can kick your ass from now until tomorrow. Kevin is a real man, and from the looks of his wife, she's a real woman. They make a great couple. It was past midnight, and the crowd was thinning out. Sally and the judge said goodnight to us and everyone at their table. After our next dance, Carly and I decided to sit in a booth not far from Rachel, Jim, and their group. Carly went to the restroom. When she returned, she noticed Jim and Rachel watching us. Carly asked, "Are you ready?" I looked at her and asked, "Ready for what? Should we go home, honey?" "No, Kevin. Are you ready for your revenge?" She slipped her lacy red silk panties into my breast pocket, where they stuck out like a handkerchief. Then, right in front of Jim, Rachel, Karen, and Bob, she said loud enough for them to hear, "Happy New Year, darling. Who said revenge isn't sweet? Happy New Year." Thanks for listening to One Infidelity Hit. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop us a like.